Greetings, dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen. This is AddisDialogue. Whenever we talk about the continent of Africa, issues associated with climate change and biodiversity come to the fore. And I think this begs the question as to what extent this great continent of Africa has been making the best out of its rich, diverse natural resources on the one hand, and what are the lingering issues that have been going on, popping up here and there for quite some time on the other. In search of answers to these questions, I'm joined by Dr. Isimemen Osiamwege from the University of Bonn in Germany. She is a senior researcher there. She will help us find answers to these questions with the program. I'm Shifara Olaiko. Do stay with us. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So to start with, many scholars say that biodiversity is the foundation for humanity. To what extent is this true from your scholarly point of view? And could you explain to us what exactly that means?
Okay, thank you very much. Looking at the definition of biological diversity, which for short we say biodiversity, that it's all the different forms of life, that is the variety of all animals, plants, fungi, and microorganisms. So considering that definition, you can say that biodiversity actually provides us with food, medicine, nutrition, and of course helps to improve our well-being.
As you know, the Earth has been facing different challenges when it comes to biodiversity, and scholars also say that this condition of the Earth is changing as we speak. So as a scholar, are you concerned, are you alarmed that the condition of the Earth, which has been going on for thousands of years, is now changing as we speak?
Yeah, I think it's really alarming. According to the recent Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, for short EPES, Global Assessment Report, we see that biodiversity is on a serious decline globally. Over 1 million species are actually threatened with extinction. And since 1900, more than 20% of land areas have lost their non-native species. So they identify in this report, which was launched in 2019, 5 main drivers of biodiversity loss. I can list them. This includes changes to the land and sea, direct exploitation, climate change, of course, comes as one of them, and then you have pollution, and lastly, non-invasive native species.
What should our globe do in order to properly cope up with the challenges coming out as a result of diverse issues that stand in the face of its biodiversity?
Yeah, I think there are really multilateral environmental framework that can be leveraged on to develop partnership for the conservation of biodiversity. So you have the Comín-Montréal Global Biodiversity Framework, which was adopted just last December.
All right.
And then you have the EPES assessment reports. They provide policy recommendations, policy options for conservation of biodiversity. So these are some of the solid foundation, that countries can leverage on for the conservation of biodiversity.
You are a senior researcher at the University of Bonn, and there are lots of scholars out there working on the challenges our globe face. How should the scholarly people cooperate in order to properly deal with the various challenges?
Yeah, I think this is no longer just the issue of scholars. Yeah, I really very much like the approach of the Comín-Montréal Global Biodiversity Framework, which adopts a whole of society and whole of government approach. So I think all stakeholder groups, including government, non-governmental organizations, scientists, of course, the practitioners, and all individuals should come should become on board to tackle issues of biodiversity erosion.
Okay, let's frame our question or discussion within the context of Africa. What are the major challenges African biodiversity face?
Beyond direct exploitation, including extractive operations, logging, and poor agronomic practices, I would say is governance issues. Because I already mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, you have a lot of frameworks which our countries have ratified that can be actually leveraged on for the conservation of biodiversity. But what we see in most local contexts is still actually the lack of political will. You know, the implementation part is still missing. And most importantly, the science policy connection is still not there. And then you lack the data, because it's easier to actually conserve what you know. So when you don't have a data on the status of your national biodiversity, then it's difficult to know which ones are under threat and where the highest priority conservation needs exist.
All right. Let me come to you and ask you this question as well. What are your priority areas as a senior researcher, and what exactly are you doing now?
Thank you very much. So right now, I am the project coordinator of a capacity development program for biodiversity and ecosystem service experts across Africa. So what we do, we have a two-pronged approach. So we have higher education and training targeting youths. We're developing their skills to navigate seamlessly science policy interface for biodiversity conservation. We're developing their thinking skills on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research methods so that they can help, you know, tackle these environmental challenges. And on the other hand, when we develop their skills, we try to foster the science policy connections through networking activities. So this is what I do right now. And talking about our students as well, we encourage them to conduct policy-oriented research, you know, and they adopt mostly interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach. By interdisciplinary, I mean they are trained to use different disciplines to address an issue. For example, they can borrow some methods from natural science as well as social science in order to address an objective of their research. And for transdisciplinary, then they bring on board the non-scientific actors, like interviewing at the national level different stakeholder groups, like indigenous and local communities, and of course, decision makers in their countries, depending on the field of study.
Yeah, since you came to Ethiopia, I think I must ask you these questions. You know, you came all the way from Germany to Ethiopia. How did you find Ethiopia, the hospitality, and what exactly are you doing here?
I feel like home in Ethiopia, I would say, and that is actually the political capital of Africa. So I feel very much at home. But what was a little bit shocking for me was the attitude. Yeah, it took me some time to actually adjust to that. But I really love the food, the diversity of the food. You know, it's really amazing. Yeah. So right now I'm here within the frame of our project. We're organizing training and workshop for our stakeholder, for the East African stakeholders. So we started out with a 2-day training, which was hosted by our consortium partner, HOAREC and Network. So this was organized by one of our consortium partners, also Kono Consulting Germany, together with the CDKN in South Africa. So this started since Monday, November 6th, and the training ended November 7th, and then we started with a workshop where all the stakeholders are invited, where we are sharing knowledge about IPES, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, talking about their assessments, because from time to time they provide the science base for biodiversity conservation. So we talk about their product because we are supporting Africans' contribution to their work program, and also the uptake of the policy options and recommendations into national policies. I mean, the ultimate aim is actually for transformative change and for biodiversity conservation. Something I forgot to mention earlier is actually the CABES project is funded by the International Climate Initiative of the German Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection, for short, the BMUV. So within the frame of the CABES project, we are mandated to establish a master's program here in Addis Ababa. Okay. So together with our consortium partners at the University of Addis Ababa. And the call for application to this program will actually be launched mid-January 2024. Okay. Yeah. So this will be targeting all countries from the East African region. Wow. Yeah. So this is scheduled to run till 2030. Within the master's program, I mean, there are different, the curriculum is vast, but it touches on a lot on natural science and as well as social scientific method. As I mentioned earlier, it's an interdisciplinary master program. And just to highlight here that it's fully funded. So
sponsored.
Yeah, it's fully funded, and with a research budget, of course, and it's a 2-year program. So this is open to all young people who are interested in being change agents and in biodiversity conservation.
That's great. So, thanks so much for giving me some of your time.
Thank you.
Well, dear viewers, with that, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you so much for having been with us so far. Until I see you next time with yet another program, it's a goodbye from me, Shfara Olako. Take care and stay safe.